Good morning. Glad to see the Australian Press Gallery here. I must apologise for the delay. The Prime Minister has been held up. What's that? Now there is no need to be rude. The PM's plane has been delayed. These things can't be helped. What did you say? Oh, you want to know about leadership speculations. Since this minority government has been elected, you guys have been reporting and commenting about the prospect of a leadership challenge. You failed to report on policy development and budgets as a consequence. Oh, I see you smirking and sniggering. What a pathetic lot you all are. Seeing as we have some time before the PM arrives, perhaps I should talk about your persistent behavior when interviewing our first female Prime Minister. I notice how some of you ask questions on a false premise. For goodness sakes, don't you do any prior research on the facts before asking your questions? You know, some of you continually interrupt the PM when she tries to answer your questions. There are even some of you who can't disguise your ultra-aggressive conservative bias, and aggressively debate the PM. What's that? Oh, you say you are making the government accountable. Well, I would agree if you use facts instead of the opposition's bullshit fear and smear campaign slogans. Hang on. Here comes my granddaughter. I brought her along to meet the Prime Minister.
Granddad. I just had to come on. I have to say something to these mainstream media clowns before I blow my stack. I find it absolutely disgusting when these members of the so-called journalistic class continually let the leader of the opposition off the hook. This guy has spat the dummy and has demanded an immediate election 24/7 for the past 2 years of this very effective minority government. He has a scant and expensive policy platform and a ridiculous budgetary framework to offer the electorate, yet these clowns in front of us refuse to scrutinize this PM in waiting.
What's that? How old is she? She is only 12 going on 30. You look like you are 50 going on 6.
Granddad. I have something else to say. Many of the mainstream media outlets in Australia are owned by vested interests. Rupert Murdoch owns 70% of the Australian print media, and that mining magnate Gene Earnhardt wants to buy out the rest. Even the taxpayer-funded ABC has demonstrated a regressive conservative bias. And please don't get me started on talking about the fascist hate jocks on screen radio. Fact impairment in the mainstream media is chronic, and bound on political activism to effect regime change. You were supposed to be the objective fourth estate, not some sort of right-wing propaganda machine. Hitler and Stalin would have given you a medal. And just where are your investigative journalists? Have they become extinct like the dinosaurs? The way you published opposition propaganda on the Slipper and Thompson matters is an absolute disgrace. You went ballistic without covering all of the facts. Australians now have to go to online news outlets such as The Independent Australia to read all of the facts on the Thompson and Slipper matters. The opposition politicians are into the Slipper affair up to their necks, as evidenced by the recent court ruling clearing Slipper of wrongdoing. This is another Watergate where opposition members contrived to effect regime change through misuse of our legal system. Yet you clowns now are trying to bury the story. I am now going off stage to reach for the vomit bucket.
Well, there goes my granddaughter. She speaks her mind. You know, I believe it was George Orwell who once wrote that, "He who owns the language owns the message." With the social media message going against your collective negative message, as proven by your very sour coverage you gave the PM for her powerful misogynist speech. While you ran it on about context, the speech got millions of hits on YouTube. The PM was also congratulated by many world leaders and by international media. But all you could talk about was context based on misinformation and innuendos about Slipper's text messages. Social media picked up on the real context. It asked who leaked the text messages. How come the opposition leader used question time to move a motion to sack Slipper? Is Parliament a kangaroo court? And why did you guys fail to sanction the ugly attack against the PM by the leader of the opposition? He swaggered and questioned the character of the PM and used those same hateful words, "die of shame," for which a popular radio hate jock was criticized when talking about the PM's recently deceased father. You failed to report that the PM's misogynist speech was a pent-up retort to this constant sexist taunting from the leader of the opposition and many members on his side of politics. You simply don't get it. But social media does. Many of you work in print media, but will lose your jobs as newspaper sales plummet, even when television and radio programs constantly cover what the newspapers are saying. As for those Murdoch's regressive conservative rags, I must tell you that even my cat refuses to have them line its kitty litter box. What? You want to lodge a complaint? Well, go ahead, make my day. Well, the PM is in the building. Just before I leave you, let me say this. With modern technology, you no longer have full control of the language. Political commentary is no longer the privilege of you few in the mainstream media. There is an information war and you guys are going to lose it. The only way you can win it is to stop being the political players no one elected. Be the fourth estate again by objectively reporting and commenting on the facts. Here's the PM. You can start by asking some serious and adult questions. Remember, social media is now watching and gunning for you. With the thought, I now leave you. This video is commentary from Ron Ostrowski. Ron Ostrowski is not a member of any political party. Ron Ostrowski has noticed that the mainstream media is failing as a fourth estate and has failed to foster an informed and serious public conversation on policy platforms, as well as budgetary frameworks. He is very concerned that political activism by the mainstream media will undermine democracy in this country through fact impairment. Let me say goodbye on behalf of Ron Ostrowski, who hates bullshit with a passion.